Stewardship, the conducting, supervising, or managing of something, especially the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. This morning is Stewardship Sunday, a day we emphasize the financial generosity needed to sustain and grow our beloved community. But stewardship is so much more than the needed finances. I started with this definition of stewardship because it explicitly does not talk about money. This definition talks about the care and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. How we invest in our beloved community with time and attention throughout all of the year is the ongoing stewardship we need to be able to sustain and move forward. We need to be stewards of the underpinnings of our community, our covenant, and our principles, as vigorously as we are stewards of our financial pledges. We need to be stewards to ensure that the love we feel internally for this community is embodied in our actions externally. What does that kind of stewardship look like? I think that's where our principles come in. Perhaps we should have the principles posted in a place where we see them all the time. You can find them in the sanctuary in our gray hymnal right after the preface. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Last Sunday, in the listening circle held to share feelings about the sudden void created by Reverend Amelia's absence, those in attendance heard, among other things, that the youth of our church and the adults closest to that youth do not always feel that their worth is held in equal measure with the rest of the congregation. Hearing that was hard. The stewardship of our youth and the adults that serve them is as vital as any money we bring in. They are the future of our congregation. Hearing that led me to ask, who else among us is feeling ignored and less than worthy? A part of our stewardship responsibilities is to make sure that our circle is drawn wide so that everyone in our community is standing inside. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Who doesn't need this reminder sitting in front of them all the time? Especially on the occasions when our interactions with others are uncomfortable because they are challenging in some way. But if we can find our way to inquiry, conversation, and compassion rather than confrontation and disruption, we all strengthen our bonds and grow our community. And if we learn to take that compassion beyond our walls, who knows how the world could change? The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. No one gets to sit on the sidelines and then critique the results in a well-functioning democracy. We have to get in there and know what's going on. It's too easy to vote at our annual meeting and then not pay attention to the challenging issues faced by our elected board members all throughout the year. Our attention and input to them helps them understand the feelings and desires of our congregation as a whole. They are our representatives. Their willingness to serve should not leave them void of our input. The same goes for all the committees of the church. They are not separate entities apart from us. They are a part of us. Those committees are made up of real people who need our support and input, too. The use of the democratic process cannot be a one-time event in the spring. On the flip side, if we are on committees of the board, we need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in all the decisions that come up to ensure that the right of conscience and the use of democratic processes are upheld. This being part of a beloved community takes work to keep it beloved. In a world that clamors for our attention in so many ways, I often look to the church as a respite from the world. It is good to come through the church doors and be with those I know are working to be good humans. For a long time, the welcoming part of service used to say, church is where we get to practice being human. I would add, it is a place where we practice being responsible humans until the practice becomes inseparable from who we are. Our conscious practicing of stewardship, caring for something precious that has been entrusted to us, is not trivial, free, or easy. But practicing conscious stewardship can lead us toward the healthy, dynamic, beloved community we dream of, the one in which our voices matter and our involvement here fills our internal resources to live well in the wider world. Come, let us be good stewards together.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace of the morning be yours, and namaste. May that radiant light of the sacred, which is present in all, may we recognize it within each other this morning. Welcome to this, our annual Stewardship Sunday service, and thank you, Sue, for expounding upon the many dimensions of the ways that we are called to care for our beloved home. We launch our stewardship campaign in the springtime of each year as the energies of life and abundance abound and enfold us in their care. More closer to home, the energies of the flu also reared their ugly head, and I am feeling better, but out of an abundance of caution, I will be leading worship this morning with my mask on, if you're wondering. This morning, we're also going to be discussing some of the traumatic and triggering realities of war and violence in the sermon. And I want you to know that there is peace and relative silence available in our courtyard space if you need respite at any point in the service, and that's always true. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Lalshabaz Calendé, and I serve this beloved community as its developmental minister. We're joined this morning not only by our Worship Associates Chair, Sue Bickford, and our Music Director, Sonder Choi, and our church choir. We also have our choral section leaders, Keon, and two special guest vocalists with us this morning, Sonia Ohan and Becca Tomasco, and a guest accompanist, Anthony Hernandez. So welcome to all of you. And of course, I want to recognize Aubrey and Mia and Liz and Pam and Tom and the many others who work behind the scenes this morning and throughout the week to bring our services to you. We're all delighted to be joining you for worship. We open this morning's service with the lighting of our flaming chalice with these words of blessing from Jennifer Stokes. We ask a blessing on this, our church home. May this building be a tool to continue the good work of our helping hands, our loving hearts, and our open minds. May this home be a safe harbor for all who sail upon the sea of life, and a beacon of hope for those on rough waters. May this building be a garden rooted with truth, compassion, and love, blossoming into peace, liberty, and justice. We give thanks for the generous people who make all of this possible. We are grateful for the continued benevolence of the universe. Let us not forget those outside our walls who still struggle with their own needs for shelter and nourishment of the body and of the soul. We ask for a blessing on this, our spiritual home. May it be so.
one world, one voice, one song. Love is here and this is where we all belong. Closer every day, each in our own way, till we're one world, one voice, one song. One world, one voice, one song. Sing it again now. One world, one voice, one song. Sing it again now. One world, one voice, one song. Sing it again now. One world, one voice, one song. Sing it again. One world, one voice, one song, one song. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica. I'm Sue Bickford, your worship associate for today. As we gather in this sanctuary and in our virtual spaces, we recognize that our homes and the homes of most of our members and friends are on the ancestral lands of Indigenous people. This is the traditional home of the Tongva, the Gabrieleño, the Keys, the Ventureño, the Fernandeño, and others. We remember their continued presence among us, the painful histories of this land, and we honor their ongoing struggle for equity, justice, and sovereignty. We're glad to have all of you with us, whether you're here physically or virtually. If you haven't already done so, we ask you to kindly silence your cell phones during the service. If you're new to our community, there are plenty of things to explore. We offer programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world, including broad religious exploration and personal development for people of all ages. We join with other social justice activists to work for justice and harmony in our world. Unitarian Universalism is guided by principles that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We are not defined by creed or dogma. Our principles encourage an individual search for truth and meaning. We honor the wonder of existence and believe that we are all connected to each other and to the interdependent web of life. Our beliefs are drawn from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient tradition. We are an open, affirming, and welcoming congregation, diverse in backgrounds, identities, spiritualities, and philosophies of life. We are united in our desire to create an inclusive, beloved community to live the principles of our faith and serve the wider world. Whatever your faith, traditions, or beliefs, we invite you to help us nurture this beloved community and further its transformative work in the world. Stay after the service and enjoy fellowship and conversation at the coffee hour in the courtyard. May you find comfort, community, and inspiration here. And there's a lot of fellowship and conversation in the courtyard today, for sure. So we'll start with stuff that's a little further away. On April 21st, our Green Living Fair is going to be after the service from 11:30 a.m., and they'll provide a delicious vegan and vegetarian potluck lunch. Put that on your calendar. And just before that, on April 19th, the UUSM Choir proudly presents our Earth Day concert, Green Love, Songs to Save the World. There's a table already set up today where you can go if you want, and there's a $25 donation requested, and tickets are available now, and you can get them out there. On April 14th, we have a special workshop, Getting Good at Getting Older, with Rabbi Laura Geller. That's at 12 p.m. after the service. And today, in addition to our Lunches for Bunches prep and the coffee hour, we have the first Sunday's visitor meetup today at 11:45 in the cottage out that way.
It will not be in the cottage, it will be on the second floor.
It'll be on the second floor in room 4. Here you go. Okie doke. And you can look for that guy who knows what's going on. We have a green committee today at 12 noon to 2 p.m. at the patio shade structure. There's an artist reception today, a retrospective on the work of Jane Lilienthal, hosted by her daughter Nancy, who's with us in the sanctuary this morning, and that starts right afterwards. We also have a UU the Vote gathering that's going on. It turns out they were here early at 9:30 to start doing things like postcarding and stuff. If you're interested in helping to UU the Vote, they're meeting every Sunday before church between now and the election, and you can talk to them more at the table outside. And if that's not enough, make sure you look at the newsletter, because there's even more stuff going on. We're going to take a few minutes now. I noticed there are lots of visitors in the sanctuary this morning. We're going to take a few minutes to greet each other and say hello and good morning, and then we're going to do something to get your attention back and so we can resume. Good morning. Let's take that lovely music as a signal that we might want to sit back down again there and hear what's coming up next. Okie doke. Asked after I told you to sit down, I'm going to ask you to rise. Rise in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn together, 1027 in the teal hymnal. 1027 in the teal hymnal. 1027 in that teal hymnal, that nice beautiful one sitting in your pew right there. You got it? 1027. Cuando el pobre. And afterward, we're going to stay standing to speak to our covenant in both English and Spanish, followed by our hymn of praise.
Quando el débil las
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz. Buscar el conocimiento en la libertad. Servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como convenimos unos a otros. Please be seated. If you have a donation for the Westside Food Bank, we ask that you bring it forward to place in our basket at this time. We've been partners in collecting food for them for a really long time. If you would like to donate food, please bring the items they use in large quantities like pastas and cereals and canned goods, nothing in glass or something that could break. Our service to the world can be embodied right here each Sunday. All people, young people and adults, are encouraged to give. We are now receiving this morning's offering for the Westside Food Bank. And after that, we have our time for all ages, and I'll be down here on the steps telling a story for anybody who wants to join me this morning. This is a story from our worship web by Lynn Gardner that I've adapted for this morning, and it's called Sustaining the Tree of Life. Does anybody know what the word sustaining means? Keep, yeah, making strong, supporting, strengthening. We do. Once upon a time, which may have been long ago or may have been yesterday, a tree stood in the middle of a village. Its trunk was so large that it took 6 people holding hands to reach around it. Its branches spread out over the village square, offering shelter and shade. Its fruit was juicy and sweet, and there was a lot of it. The tree was loved by everybody in the village. Children climbed its branches. People said that if you whispered your dreams to the tree, they were more likely to come true. If friends spoke out loud their love or friendship for each other under its branches, it seemed their friendships were good for both of them. And elders discovered that the best memories they had came into their minds when they were near the tree. The tree had seen so much of the village life that when breezes blew through the leaves, villagers and strangers could hear echoes of all the generations, laughters and conversations and dreams and prayers and songs. And animals loved the tree too. There were rabbits and squirrels and bats and bees and birds, and they all lived in and around the tree and loved to eat that sweet, juicy fruit too. The tree just buzzed with life. One day, a traveling stranger came into the village. They rested under the tree and ate 2 pieces of delicious fruit. "This fruit is incredible," they said. "I would like to have some to sell in the next villages that I visit. Who owns this tree?" "Well, no one owns this tree," replied a villager. "If anything, we belong to it." "Well, then if no one owns the tree, no one will mind if I pick the fruit," said the stranger, and began to fill a bag. "I mind," said the villager, "and today I'm the keeper of the tree." "What do you mean, keeper of the tree?" "Well, we each take our turn being here with the tree. We could never own it. We are here as protectors and as sustainers." That's ridiculous. A tree doesn't need a protector. You could just take what you need and take what you want, and the tree would be fine without you here. But the villager disagreed. We don't come here to protect our tree just so we can take from it, even though we receive much. We are keepers of the tree because this is where our village holds on to our community. This is where some of our most precious memories are and where our people have dreamed. This is where we remember who we want to become. Well, said the stranger, you may think this tree is very special, but it still doesn't need you to sit with it. That's preposterous. Ah, replied the villager, the tree itself may not need me, but what about the others who come by? Just this morning, I sat with a woman who was very worried about something. If I hadn't been here, she would have had no one to share her worries with. And this afternoon, a tired couple came by and they rested with me. They said they'd been looking for a place like this. And then an elder came by and we watched the birds and the branches together. And now you are here. You were confused about what this tree is and how to be with it. Imagine if you had arrived and not found anyone here to talk with you. You might have continued thinking that everything you do is only about you. Luckily for you, my friend, I'm here to let you know that when someone cares for the tree of life, everything we do becomes about so much more than just ourselves. And the stranger sat for a while in the shade, listening to the songs and the rustling of the leaves and thinking on the idea that what we do is about more than just ourselves. That felt like a new idea and a little challenging. As the sun moved through the sky, they picked up their bag and headed out of town, whistling a song that hadn't been whistled in years. On the way, the strangers shared a smile with each person they met, feeling strangely light and joyful. And the people of the village? They continued to sustain the tree of life, to care for one another and share their gifts with grace and gratitude. And that story made me think of a question. Where is some place in our village we try to care for one another and share our gifts? And that's our story today. Go be a tree. Down there. There's a. We'll sing our song of blessing, and the children may head forward on their second time through.
Spiritual community encourages and helps us return to center, to remember our wholeness, to remember that our being is held in the great interdependent web of all of existence. We turn now to the time in our weekly services that is dedicated to the mindfulness that brings such awareness and spiritual deepening. Let us settle into these moments of word and silence, prayer and meditation, to find our centers, return to our wholeness, and remember our relatedness to all of creation. One joyful and prayerful concern that I have to share with the community this morning is that Alyssa and Chris unexpectedly welcomed Mary Elizabeth into our world on Wednesday following an emergency C-section. Linda and Greg have flown to be with them, and we hold Mary Elizabeth and the entire family in our prayers and in the light of our beloved community this morning. Kathleen Agozi would also like to share the good news that her niece has successfully gone through surgery for cancer and that they were able to spend some time together during her recovery. We hold Kathleen, her niece, and family in our prayers and in the light of our beloved community this morning. Now let us begin with the awareness we bring to our breathing, to the simple inhalations and exhalations that are the most precious acts of life, and yet that go on minute by minute and hour by hour and day by day, often without conscious awareness or reverence for these simple miracles. Let us be astounded this morning through our deepening awareness of our breathing, the rhythms of life passing into, through, and out of us, and then returning in cycles that fasten us to our wondrous existences. Let us become aware of our bodies as the vehicles for our breath, feeling their weightiness on our pews, our chairs, the floor beneath us, gravity holding us firmly and steadily and tenderly to the soil beneath us, the simplest of relationships, body of earth tethered to earth body, among the most precious of relationships. And yet, minute by minute and hour by hour and day by day, they all pass without conscious awareness or reverence for these simple miracles. Let us be astounded this morning through our deepening awareness of our bodies and their bonds to the soil beneath us, which fasten us to our wondrous existences. Our mindfulness prayer this morning is Your Hands by Lucas Hergert. I invite you to take a moment to witness your hands before you, sources of generosity, creativity, healing. Perhaps feel them pressing together or resting upon the space of your heart, or open as though inviting new blessing into your life. And with this awareness of your heart, your hands, I invite you to join me in the spirit of mindful reflection, prayer, and meditation. Your hands, the ones that you are holding together in prayer or desperation or hope, the ones with the tiny scar you carried since that bicycle accident all those years before, the ones that today may shake with worry or sit still from the gravity of headlines. Those hands, your hands, there is something to remember, a needful thing to remember about your hands, that they are the same hands that petted the cool, slick back of a kitten on its first day, the same ones that flattened the crumpled edges of a construction paper heart after the glue came unstuck, the same hands that just last night pulled your family's patchwork under the chin of your youngest as you whispered, "It is going to be okay," and wanted it to be so. The same hands that offered, in the simplest gesture of gift-giving, tissue to a stranger whose tears streaking her face asked why, addressed not to you, but to God. Asked of a world whose glue has come unstuck. They are the same hands that give the world its most needful thing. You know its most needful thing. You know because your hands have always given it, always offered or tried to offer the kindest touch, exactly when it was hoped for. And you know nothing can change that, right? Nothing can take away the brilliant, beautiful power of the hands God gave you, not to pull a trigger, not to proclaim the softness, but to proclaim the softness of the world. Nothing can annul the kindness of your touch. There is power in your hands, the power of a kindness that beckons, to to remake the world always as though it were the first day. Let us meditate now for a few brief moments in the silence. The springtime is a season of transformation. As the dark and heavy clouds shower their bounty upon the earth, and new life begins to make its ways from the depths of the dense soil up into the spaciousness that awaits above. The overcast skies of winter bring their last dramatic expressions of thunder and lightning and hail, which even here in California, some of us experienced a few days ago, before they slowly recede and dissipate to make room for the clear, open skies and the showers of the sun's warming rays that are to follow. The changing seasons are a part of our own lives, and we are born of the cycles of nature. And this transition from winter to spring is experienced within our beings and in our relationships and in our communities. Whereas the winter is a time of turning inward and self-reflection as we spend more time indoors and at home, the spring invites us out into its abundance of fertility and activity. We are summoned to the great outdoors in the communities in which our lives are embedded. Our inner life gradually becomes more outwardly attentive, and we become full participants in this chorus of life that is everywhere singing of its unfolding and blossoming once again. In the springtime, nature's abundance is poured out in a colorful array. The delicate white jasmine and vibrant lavender wisteria, the budding peach, nectarine, and plum trees with their pink, white, and red blossoms, and the golden fields of a rainbow of wildflowers in full bloom. Nature calls us to witness to this outpouring of nature's abundance, and invites us to be participants in the flourishing and the sharing of the gifts of life. See how the flowers of the field grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If this is how the Spirit of life cares for the beauty of the fields, will not the power of life resplendent also care for you in such great measure? Inquires the poor prophet from Galilee in the ancient sacred texts. He is responding to inquiries from his distressed companions who are questioning their faith and their spiritual mission in the world. They are wondering how they are to be assured that there will even be enough to eat or drink or clothing available to wear if they are to live with such great faith and to accomplish such great deeds as to which they have been called. Again and again, he tells them to observe the world around them, from the birds of the sky to the lilies in the field, and to witness to the abundance that is ever present, that is the sustenance of existence itself. Do we not likewise find this abundance in our midst? In the canopy of nature that surrounds us? In this sanctuary that holds the stories and struggles and spirits of the ages? In the faces beside you, each their own sanctuary of life's joys, hardships, loves, talents, wisdoms, hopes, and memories? Let's take just a moment to bask in the array of life's abundance that is present to us, in the beauty of the starry heavens, in the rainbow colors of the fields, in the softness of human touch, and in the power of having our lives witnessed to and witnessing to the lives of others in the human family. Let us rest even in times of tumult and strife, and remember life's abundance poured out in such generous measure that there is little we could even do to adequately respond, beyond offering our praise, our joy, our awe, and our thanksgiving for all of it. What would our world be like? Imagine what human civilization could be like if we but remember how life has enfolded us in beauties and treasures and wonders that surpass our understanding. And what have we? What has the human family done instead of being dazzled by the horizonless wonders of our existence? In this nation and all around the globe, humanity has so often to decide to live through the narrow perspective of dividing up the human family, fearing difference and diversity, relating to each other through capitalistic competition exploitation for resources and power, by oppressing the vulnerable and the powerless, and by being so often consumed by the delusions of bigotry and hatred and then acting out in violent and destructive ways. It seems as though we have come once again to a watershed moment in history in which two very different paths are emerging before us. One, I believe, is born of our highest moral values and greatest hopes for the human family. Another, I believe, is born of greed and fear, scarcity, deception, and lust for power, all with roots in the unhealed traumas and woundedness present in the human story. The church year before us will witness a clash of the warring ideological currents of freedom, democracy, pluralism, and moral leadership with the ascending forces of authoritarianism, Christian nationalism, oppression of diversity and difference, and, of course, that cis-heteropatriarchal white supremacy. This isn't just happening here in our nation, but around the world as humanity grapples with rapidly changing societies and an inability to effectively adapt to new collective challenges like climate disruption and nuclear weapons and artificial intelligence and global pandemics and social media disinformation and the inequitable distribution of resources around the globe. We've likewise been unable or unwilling to heal the long-standing and profound wounds in the soul of humanity, like those left in the aftermath of the Holocaust and the Nakba and the dissolution of the USSR and the generations of catastrophic bloodshed between capitalistic and socialistic societies and the brutal enslavement and sale of African people and the genocide of indigenous people, to name but a few of these wounds in the soul of humanity. We are living in perilous times in which, in the depths of these historical wounds, wars are raging, suffering is metastasizing, and more innocent lives are being sacrificed as though violence could atone for violence or death could bring something other than more death. Is this the world we want for ourselves? For our siblings down the street, across the nation, or around the globe? Is this the world, or what may come of it, that we wish to leave for our children or our grandchildren or their grandchildren? Do we want to live in a world where our own government's moral clarity consists of providing the weapons that tear limb from limb to nations at war, while at the same time dropping rations for those left standing in the wake of the explosions of those very weapons? Do we want to live in a global village stitched together by the projected pathways of missiles and weapons of mass destruction zigzagging around the globe? I wish I could sanitize these realities this morning. But those of us who have some privilege of distance or relative safety cannot shy away from the plight of our siblings anywhere in the world, or the complicity of our own nation in the devastations of war. But we must bear witness. We must resist these evils. Let's take a breath, though, and return to center as best as we are able. This message began with a meditation on the abundance of the gifts of life that enfold us. And we can steady and ground ourselves in that awareness as we also struggle to face and address the profound destruction and challenges of our world. We know the ascending powers of authoritarianism, Christian nationalism, oppression of diversity and difference, and cis-heteropatriarchal white supremacy are also rearing their heads closer to home. The judgments of the Supreme Court of the United States appear to no longer represent the diversity of the people to whom it is entrusted with upholding equal justice under the law. Many of its rulings now represent an extremist ideology that's had the audacity to deny fundamental rights and civil liberties like reproductive freedom and affirmative action, and the separation of church and state, and the protection of delicate ecological systems, rather than safeguard and extend such rights, protections, and liberties. In our state governments, gerrymandering and voter suppression is reversing decades of progress to establish white supremacy, not as an expression of the will of the people, but rather the implementation of the will of an extremist, racist ideology that doesn't have popular support. In the last year, over 400 bills have been introduced in many of these same governments, attacking the LGBTIAQ plus communities and specifically targeting transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary queer youth through dangerous disinformation, discrimination, and bigotry. We are at a crossroads in this watershed moment in history. And we as a community have to decide if we are prepared to lead in solidarity with other movements and communities, to help heal the wounds of the past, to defend freedom and democracy and pluralism, and to continue to fight like hell for the living. Our Unitarian Universalist movement has a centuries-long track record of showing up for society in perilous moments when its moral foundations are under attack. And we must summon the better angels of our nature and call our siblings to do the same. Our effectiveness as liberal religious resistors, leaders, and revolutionaries has always been grounded in the collective and the spiritually grounded nature of our movement. It's in community that we generate greater creativity, undergird resilience and sustainability in the face of profound adversity, and that we exponentially multiply our positive impact on the world around us. We know this from our own congregation's nearly century-long history that includes the prophetic periods of advocating for LGBTIAQ plus people when no other mainline religious movement would do the same. Organizing with the farm workers to demand justice and equity here on our campus, and marching with Dr. King in Selma to fight segregation and demand civil rights. This history is still alive today in our community, in each of you. And it's the foundation upon which we've committed ourselves to the realization of beloved community within our congregation, within our society, within our world. The abundance with which we lead in perilous times includes all of this history, all of our hopes, all of our dreams, and yes, our financial commitments to the furtherance of the liberal and liberating religious light in our world. Now, our amazing stewardship team has pulled together an array of ways of engaging with this year's campaign. I want to thank Denise Helton, who courageously agreed to chair the campaign, and Reverend Kikanza Nuri Robbins, Sue Bickford, Gretchen Getz, Sarah Robeson, Eileen McCormick, Vilma Ortiz, and Nurit Gordon, who have all offered their wise and dedicated support to our congregation in these efforts. Others have agreed to serve as hosts for events and community stewards, and we're grateful for everyone who's come together to support this year's pledge campaign. We hope you'll pick up a pledge packet after the service and attend one of our connecting conversations after the Sunday service today in the courtyard or on April 28th, or one of the 3 house parties members are hosting this month. There will be food at all of these and perhaps drinks as well. You should have received an email about these opportunities a day ago, and there will be more information in your pledge packet, so please pick them up today. When you complete and return your pledge package, you'll receive one of our beautiful new UUSM pins specifically designed for this year's annual campaign. Thank you. Thank you for all that you continue to give to cultivate, nurture, and encourage the flourishing of our beloved community in the world. The year before us is not one any of us have bidden, but let us remember the generous bounty of life's abundance that enfolds us always and invites us to respond in kind. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Each week, 50% of our Sunday offering goes to sustaining the work of our church. There are those who sustain our church often without being seen. We may know their names, but we don't often see their faces. I'm thinking in particular about our church sextons and our office staff who keep our church humming along during the week so that when we gather on Sundays, it's all together. The other 50% of each Sunday's offering goes to an organization doing justice in the wider world. This April, we are sharing offering with the Rainforest Action Network. The Rainforest Action Network, RAN, preserves forests, protects the climates, and upholds human rights by challenging corporate power and systematic injustice through frontline partnerships and strategic campaigns around the globe. RAN works with indigenous and frontline communities directly impacted by environmental justice in campaigns as far-flung as hazardous power lines in Michigan to Sumatra farmers being intimidated into selling their lands to giant pulp and plantation businesses. There are many ways to give. Cash, checks, and digital donations are all welcome. Instructions ahead, right there. So you can use our website, you can use your smartphone, or you can just write an old-fashioned check, or you can put something in the old basket as it comes by today. You can still always make out a check to the church for any of the fundraising goals that we have. We give of our time, talents, and hard-earned dollars. We give to our community so we will always have a place to gather and people with whom to share our humanity. For all of these offerings, we thank you.
The ceiling is high to let your soul rise. cloud. It helps you back down and welcomes you home to this hallowed ground. It's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Church of the earth. And the windows are wide, so darkness and light, mystery and beauty greet you inside. And there's room enough to hold all of us together in friendship, together in love. Oh, it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Church of the earth. Church of life, ancient and bright, light that inside us shines, life that we share. This is our prayer, that we may always find the heaven we seek here at our feet, here in this sunrise, in this heartbeat. Oh, it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Oh, it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, heaven below, heaven above, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, church of the earth.
Thank you. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn. This is 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
Hearts and spirits sing to
May you go into this day, into this week in peace. May you hold fast to that which is good. May you return to no person evil for evil. But may you strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted. May you go forth into this day, into this world, and be blessed, and may you be a blessing. Amen.